I'm by far the least technical person who will be up here today, so be gentle. I'm not a smart man. So let me, I would like to just go right into the nuts and bolts of it. A lot of people are wondering, how I came out of nowhere and hit the bestseller lists. And so my objectives and my model will be slightly different than those of many people in this room, just because I'm dealing with a physical product with very poor margins and physical distribution in a very, very inefficient business, which is publishing. So there are many different facets, but I went into it with a boatload of ignorance and a healthy amount of confidence, recognizing that the publishing world was very anachronistic and the online world was changing so quickly that there had to be inefficiencies and loopholes that hopefully, being as completely ignorant as I was, I would see and capitalize on. So I called Noah yesterday. I just landed in SFO this morning at 5 a.m. So I have Red Bull coursing through my veins and enough caffeine to disqualify a track team. So I'll try to give you something useful. But I called him up and I said, Noah, I'm really excited about this, but what's viral marketing? How do you define it? What the hell is it? And I wasn't quite sure because the word marketing bothers me a lot. I think people confuse it with selling. So I view marketing as either picking a market and then designing a product for it, or taking a product, looking at the characteristics, and then matching it to a market. And then the rest of it is selling. So really what I'm going to talk about is how to make people talk about something you want them to talk about. That's it. Hopefully in a way that ultimately results in a sale. That's it. So I'll give you a few real quick stories. I do want to have plenty of time for Q&A because I don't want to try to guess what you guys want to know. But I remember when I was first getting ready to launch this book, I had a conversation with the president of one of the largest online booksellers in the U.S. And I told him, I was like, so these are my plans. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm very confident that I can hit at least one of the major national lists. And he, in essentially these words, he said, after laughing for a while, he said, well, listen, kid, let me explain this to you. Let me explain the statistics. And he ran through about 10 minutes of reasons why I couldn't do it. And he went to the trouble. This is the president. He should be busy doing important things. He put together about 5 PDFs of historical data that proved that I couldn't do it and sent it to me and declined to do anything with me. And then on a separate occasion, I was trying to do a partnership, propose a partnership with a pretty large software company that had a lot of synergy with the content of the book. And he said, well, I want to make sure we're not just promoting your little book and we're not getting anything out of it. So, what's your plan for marketing? And I said, well, I'm willing to put all of my advance into PR and marketing. And he said, oh, really? Well, how much is that? And it wasn't very much. We're talking, 5 figures. And he laughed for a while, and he said, well, I guess we'll be more interested in what the publisher plans on doing. Yeah, why don't you check in with them and get back to me? And that was the end of that. So the title of this was How to Hit the Bestseller List, or How I Did It in 6 months. It actually happened in 4 days. So the book came out on April 24th, and Amazon sold out of stock within 4 days. Which meant that only about 30% of their sales were reported to the bestseller lists, and it was so severely under-distributed at retail that really didn't count. And I still hit the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal for that week. So how did it happen? There are a few things, and I'm going to read off notes because I don't trust my neurons to do their work today, is really to get people to talk, you have to do something remarkable, okay? Now, that doesn't mean impressive. It means remarkable. It's worth remarking on. And there are a few ways to do that. The fastest way to do that, I realize, is to really to polarize people. All right. So the worst response that you can get is no response. People being apathetic, and you really want people to either love or hate you. And I guess, unfortunately for me, that's been the case. Silly frat boy. Why did you write a book? Type of stuff. Even though I am not a frat boy, but I'm happy to have that response. And I realize that. What I've systematically done is threatened the 3 Bs. I came up with that clever little ditty yesterday. So behaviors, beliefs, or belongings. And if you threaten those things, people have a strong response. And they'll either say, wow, that's incredible, this is awesome, or they'll say, well, wow, you're a complete idiot, or you're a liar, or you're a fraud, or whatever. And then those people fight, and that's what you want. You want them to get into big arguments and rant and rave and cause all sorts of noise online, and that's what I was able to do. So, the way I did that primarily, and the reason that a lot of bloggers picked up on my stuff, I think, is because I never really directly sold my book. I never really directly pushed the book. I never said, yeah, go out and buy my book. And how much, okay, so how much did I end up spending on the PR and marketing to hit the lists? I spent about, I would say, $25,000. And $18,000 of that was wasted on a PR firm that didn't do anything. They got one print feature. So if you're gonna hire someone for PR, get like a recent college grad who's scrappy and hungry and hasn't proven themselves, but gives good phone, as they say, and just say, you know what, you need to prove yourself, pal. Get on the phone and start smiling and dialing. Those are the people who book a lot of media, surprisingly. Anyway, so all the money I spent, which was less than 10 grand, was on flying around, going to events like South by Southwest, which was one of the first tipping points for me, and like having drinks with bloggers, and never even mentioning the book, just asking tons of questions about things I was interested in. And they would say, blah, 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 Ruby on, whatever, Python, WordPress. And I go, hold on. I'm like drowning in the ignorance pool here. What the hell is WordPress? And they were so taken aback by that because I was just like, I know nothing about this, but I think it's pretty cool. I would ask them questions, and like the second day, they'd be like, well, what the hell do you do? And I'd be like, oh, well, I'm working on my first book, yeah, And they'd be like, well, what's it about? And then I would tell them, and they'd be like, oh, great, well, you send me a copy or something. I'm like, yeah, okay. And that's how a lot of it happened. I met almost every major blogger who covered the book. I met in person at least once, maybe 2, maybe 3 times. And the way that you sell a lot of books, for example, without actually directly selling the book, is you sell around the product. So what I mean by that is, and then I'll come back to sort of creating champions and attackers, is people don't like to be sold. They feel manipulated, right? If you go to buy a car and they're like, well, what do I need to do to get you in this car today? You're like, man, back off. I don't, if I buy it, I'm going to feel like I got my arm twisted. No one likes that. But they do like to be part of something new, and they do like solutions to problems. So instead of talking about the book, you could talk about the concept of the book. You could talk about the trends that I noticed, for example, traveling around the world, interviewing people in more than 20 countries. The fact is, this isn't how to become Tim Ferriss. It's actually what thousands of people are doing, but well under the radar. So there's this new trend. Like the Wall Street Journal spoke to me and then did this big personal outsourcing article. I don't know if you guys saw that. And then you can also talk about the person, right? So if before you can sell a product, you have to establish a certain level of credibility. Or you have to have some hook, and it comes back to PR, but PR for me just means personal relationships. And then you can talk about like a phenomenon, so people valuing time and mobility over income in the case of my book. And so I'll give you a few examples of ways that I've elicited attacks, which I think is a really effective way of creating word of mouth. So here are a couple of the popular posts that have branded me a liar and an idiot and all sorts of things. There was one called From Geek to Freak. I don't know if any of you guys saw this. It was a post that I put up on my blog about how I gained 34 pounds of muscle in 4 weeks. And with before and after photos from San Jose State, and oh my God, did that cause a shitstorm. It was unbelievable. I mean, got on the front page of Dig. I've done that 6 or 7 times in the last, I don't know, month and a half. And that was one of them. And that really I got a lot of mileage out of that. And then another one, I write for Huffington Post, and it was called Marijuana Trumps Blackberries for Productivity. That was another one. That's actually based on real research from London, believe it or not. And how to travel the world with 10 pounds or less. You're challenging people's behaviors or beliefs. And, I did another one. So outsourcing is a very sensitive word, right? It's a really sensitive topic. So I decided to see how far I could push that, and I outsourced my dating for 4 weeks. I basically hired teams and allocated one online dating site to each team and had a performance bonus for the most dates they would set for me. I was just sick of spending hours on Match.com. And it was awesome. It worked out really well. I won my bet and, again, caused like an enormous shitstorm of controversy. And And it was great. It was fantastic because I basically removed myself from the debate and just let these armies of opposing sides clash swords. It was awesome.